Good evening, and welcome to the November 10th, 2020 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. I now call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please, Ms. Whitcamp?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan.
Yes.
We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Mr. President, members of the board, there are no modifications to the agenda.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Dolan and a second by Ms. Kirk. May I get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan.
Yes.
The ayes have it and the motion carried. Okay. Tonight we're going to begin with recognition.
Madam President, members of the board, we have 5 recognitions tonight, teachers from schools. And along with us, we have the principals online. Our first one is Dolores, and she has Laura Ramirez. Dolores, did you hear us? She's muted. Dolores, you muted, unmute.
Okay, I'm here, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, will you please introduce your teacher, please?
Absolutely. So, good evening, board. Thank you for allowing us to present to you one of our amazing teachers at Nancy Lopez Elementary School. Her name is Laura Ramirez. She is a first grade bilingual teacher at Nancy Lopez. Laura currently is a participant of the Institute for Arts Integration and STEAM Fall Conference. She's also part of the 8-week cohort for the Letters PD. Laura is a member of Teach Plus. She's a lead mentor for the district over the bilingual K-2 mentors. Laura is also a mentor at Nancy Lopez to 3 of our first-year teachers. She's part of the first grade team who assists with writing the district instructional guides. And she's the proud parent of her children, one of whom just scored a 31 on her ACT.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Good.
Thank you, Dolores. Laura, look. Hold on. Technology. You went on mute. Laura, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All right. I got it to work, guys.
Any members from the board? Any words from the board?
Congratulations, job well done. We're very, very proud of you, Laura. Keep up the great work.
I'd like to
Thank you.
congratulate you as well. And also congratulations to your daughter on receiving a 31 on her ACT. You're doing something right. And I really thank you for serving over at Nancy Lopez Elementary School. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Ramirez, I just want to say congratulations and thank you for your hard work. I know it's not easy going through these times of a new lesson plan and a new concept on teaching. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, thank you very much. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next one is, the principal is Travis from Valley View. And Travis, I'm looking to see if Olivia's online. Yes, she is.
Yeah, she is.
Okay, go ahead, Travis.
So Olivia Langley is our lead 4th grade teacher at Valley View Elementary School. And she took on that role this year, and she's been excelling in that position, not just in the 4th grade, but throughout the school. She's mastered a lot of the challenges that most teachers are faced with across the district and the nation, really. She's become our Canvas expert. She's lended her expertise to other schools as well. Just a positive attitude day in and day out, always welcoming new ideas. She is always willing to learn every single day, which rubs off on the students that she teaches as well. She has that passion to learn. She sat in on a 16-hour social studies professional development the other weekend and was excited to share all the new things that she had learned and how she was going to add those into her class. And just having those daily conversations with her is just refreshing during challenging times. And she's, like I said, mastered this remote learning, and it's just a pleasure to have her at Valley View as one of the leaders of the school.
Mark?
Ms. Langley, well, thank you for your hard work and effort in putting everything out there for our kids. I really appreciate it.
And Olivia, thank you. This is Mike Gottlieb. I appreciate everything you do. And, which I didn't say at the beginning, we'll be getting you your board note certificate to you through the pony or through the principal, so we'll get it to you. So thank you, Olivia. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say, I've known Olivia a very long time. She was one of my parents when I was the principal at El Cap. And her kids came to El Cap, then she took the position as administrative assistant at Sierra, and then got her teaching license and became a teacher. She has done a phenomenal job. She's had a long journey, and not all of it's been easy for her. So Olivia, this is a well-deserved accolade, and cherish it. You've done an excellent job. You've hung in there. You're so positive, and I am so very proud of you.
Thank you for those kind words, Mona. That means a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Olivia.
Ms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, our next one is from Haley, principal of East Grand Plains, and it's Crystal Lethgo. Haley?
Yes, good evening, board members. My teacher that I want to nominate is Miss Crystal Lethgo. She is an amazing teacher who works incredibly hard for our students. From day one, Crystal has been seeking out opportunities to learn and grow in teaching students in a virtual setting. She offers enrichment twice a week and engages students in hands-on STEAM activities, like building a catapult and then encouraging students to shoot popcorn into their mouth and then talking about the science behind it. She also works hard at ensuring that learning is structured similar to face learning, having her students earn llama bucks for good behavior and giving them opportunities to buy things like a breakout room with a friend instead of sitting next to a friend like we would do in the classroom, or even Zoom lunch with their friends and their teacher. On several occasions, she has opened her Zoom link on Wednesdays after PLCs and allowed students to pop in as needed, which is a wonderful way to meet their social emotional needs. On a few occasions, students have just popped in to drink hot cocoa and chat with their teachers on Wednesday. Ms. Lethgo is also our 4th grade lead teacher. She's our SAT chair, and she also offers several opportunities for teachers to reach out to her as our Canvas lead teacher.
Anybody from the board?
Well, I will speak on behalf of Crystal also. Welcome back, Crystal. She is an excellent teacher. I've known her a very long time too, and I know she's had a long journey, and it's all been so very positive. I hear such positive things, and thank you, Crystal, for all you do and your love for children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lethgo.
And Crystal, how about a video for that so I can send that to Dr. Han of your popcorn thing, how it works in science? I think he needs a lift every once in a while too, so that would be a fun thing to watch.
For sure.
Thanks,
We will
Crystal.
get you a video or send you some pictures of our catapults and popcorn launching.
Absolutely. Thanks, Crystal. Congratulations. And our next one is Stacy from Missouri Avenue. Stacy, you online? Okay, let me unmute her. Stacy, you there? Stacy? Well, let's go to two. Stacy, are you online? No. We'll come back, Stacy, if you're hearing this. I think you're trying to get on. We'll go to Sally from Parkview. She has Julie Trenton. Sally? Sally, can you hear us? Sally? Sally?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gottlieb, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, because there for a second, I thought I lost everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Gottlieb and School Board, for allowing us to come on and honor our outstanding staff. Tonight, I'd like to recognize Julie Trentham. She's our IEP specialist, and she's been an RISD employee for over 14 years. She's an amazing team player and is always willing to support not only our students, families, and staff, but also administration. When COVID first hit, she had to be creative on how she's going to continue supporting our students with special needs. In the middle of the pandemic, we lost our Child Find secretary, and Julie stepped up to take on responsibilities to make sure we didn't skip a beat. She made sure we made all of our timelines, and she made sure that all of our student needs were met in the process. She would work on IEPs well over her contract time and held IEP meetings whenever it was best for families and staff. We are short on subs. She's able to help. She's always willing to fill in wherever needed. And as an administrator, she's constantly asking me how she can help or support the office staff. Recently, our secretary fell and broke her wrist, and Julie once again offered to work in the office while she writes IEPs and does her job. Her attitude and ability to keep confidentiality is remarkable, and we're blessed to have her not only on the RISD team, but also on our Parkview team.
Thank you, Sally. Let me unmute Rachel.
Can we say something about Julie?
Yes, I mean Julie. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought we had gone to
Julie,
somebody
are
else.
you there?
I'm here, yes.
All right.
Yes,
You are.
hi
Thank
Julie,
you.
this is Mrs. Sanchez. I can attest to just about everything that her supervisor had just stated. And I think I can personally speak about Julie because I worked with her at Sunset, and her passion for teaching have enabled her to positively impact the lives of all of her students and of course her colleagues. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez.
And I too have worked with Julie before, and I think you are an amazing asset. Like Sally Green said, you're an amazing asset to Parkview and RISD. Keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Green.
Ms.
Thank
Purr.
you very much.
Thank you very much, Julie. We'll try Missouri Avenue again. Stacy?
Yes, I can hear you guys this time. Can y'all hear
Okay,
me?
very good.
Okay. It went completely silent earlier. Sorry.
That's all right. That's technology.
Yes.
Would you introduce your teacher, Rachel Hudson?
Yes, Rachel Hudson is a very passionate teacher over at Missouri Avenue. She has one of the biggest hearts for students that I have ever seen. And she is willing to go above and beyond to make sure she takes care of all of her students and they have what they need. She is willing to, she's almost like my pinch hitter. She started off in second grade last year. She jumped into third grade, and this year she jumped in and filled a fourth grade position for me. So she is excellent at everything she has done. She works as our SAT chair and has helped the district on forms for our SAT committee to make sure that it is running smoothly. And she has also worked this year on our instructional guides and planning. So she is just an amazing teacher, and I am so blessed to be able to work with her.
Board members?
Ms. Hudson, I want to thank you for your work, and I'm going to tell you that you got the biggest compliment possible from my wife when she said that she would love for you to taught our grandkids. So that, to me, speaks volumes, and I just want to appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hudson, and I wanted to give just a general message to all of these teacher leaders, because you all are truly teacher leaders, and I want you to know that we see you and the amount of work and effort that you put into everything you're doing, not only with your class, but with your families. I want you to know that we value you, and it's one thing to learn and do well with your own classes, but you all have really done a lot more and gone beyond your classes, and your principals have given examples of that. The trainings you're doing, the knowledge that you're sharing. So just thank you so much, and it's our honor to recognize you all tonight.
Thank you all very much again.
And Rachel,
Thank you.
thank you so much for all you're doing, for your school, for your service in RISD. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. We will now have inquiries and general comments. Ms. Whitcamp, has anyone requested to speak?
No, ma'am, they didn't.
Thank you. Okay, do we have informational items tonight?
Madam President, members of the board, we have some questions that were asked of us, and we have some people online that will help us with this. The first question that came up is servicing EL students during distance learning. What are we doing, and how's it working? How do we know? We have online Jennifer and Andrea. Could you make sure, let me know that you're there? Jennifer? Jennifer? Ms. Cole? Okay.
Push another button.
Well, for whatever reason, there's two of them for there. There's two Jennifers.
Can you hear,
You're there?
can you hear me?
Yep. Andrea, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So what are we doing for our EL students? How's it working? And of course, talk about our difficulties as we're having with all students. So if you'll answer those questions, and we'll have some questions for you.
Mrs. Cole, you want me to start, or?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, what we've done with the different schools, especially the elementary, we have, some teachers are Zooming with their students if they're a pull-out and their schedule allowed. And we have some schools that are giving packets. All schools were given a phone log to keep in contact, because as it is not just with the ELs, we have some problems with technology at home, or we have some problems with students not logging in. So the teachers have been in constant contact with parents, calling and emailing or through Dojo, trying to get the students on, as many as they can. And if they don't, the ones who don't have Zooms, some of those teachers are going into their classroom, their regular ed classrooms, and helping them in there. So at least they can have that contact with that student or with those students. And if they have breakout sessions, then they can work with them in those smaller groups within the class. And that way it doesn't have to be an extra time to Zoom. However, sometimes in some schools, if the student still needs that extra support, we have a couple of schools that the teachers later in the afternoon are having kind of a tutoring Zoom for all those students who need that extra support and are allowed to come in there and get that from those teachers. Now at the middle school and the high school, of course, we have the tutoring after school. We have one high school that has a tutoring class for those EL students to give them that extra support. And I believe they're starting now their after school tutoring. Now, are all ELs getting on and on the Zooms? No, just like everybody else. Again, like I said, it's technology issues, or they're just not getting on. And the packets that are being turned back are not being complete because they don't have
that support at home, or both parents are working, so the student is having to do that. Where, again, the teacher is making herself available for those afternoon Zooms, provided the student gets on. I do have one teacher, if they can't do that, she's doing it through the phone, just walking them through the telephone. I mean, just doing what they can. It would be nice, especially for our newcomers, to have them face to face, but we can't do that because they need that support. They need that interaction with the teacher and to work on those oral skills. And that's been a challenge, especially because we have a lot of parents, again, that don't have that technology capability at home. We did, for the high school, for the middle school, I do have some students on Rosetta Stone that we bought, that's web-based. We have, and they're using that as the teachers are using that as part of a resource within their classroom. So they can get that support for the newcomers. And we're having a lot of PD pushed out, especially when I get it and it's free, that's even better. So I push it out because right now we have some PD that's being pushed out for the virtual learning. We brought one in from Trisha DeFazio, who gave a training, and we opened that up to the secondary teachers. We had a good turnout on that, and then the following Friday we had the similar PD that was free with Dr. Mora Flores, and we had teachers that attended on that. That one was opened up to everybody, so a lot of the elementaries did get on that one. We have the 3 high schools taking TESOL training. If it was in person, that training would have been in 3 days, but where we're at, so it's going to take a while. So there's some self-paced projects that need to be done, and so they're working as cohort groups, and we have a couple of teachers from Mesa Middle School who joined university's cohort just because we had those extra slots. We're keeping in contact with some parents, and that I have a secondary teacher, who started with her school and has worked around to the other middle schools in getting the ELs. The principals have given names to us, and I passed them to her so that she can call them, and she tries to help the parents logging into Canvas and showing the teachers how to maneuver within Canvas. And so, and we also have Mrs. Velara, who is doing that at Mountain View for those parents there. And so right now I'm looking for someone to do that for the elementary, because the secondary teacher is willing to do that for elementary. The only thing is she doesn't know Seesaw, so she didn't feel too comfortable doing that. So I am kind of looking for an elementary teacher who can kind of help that with the parents around the district. Although I do have the EL teachers within their own school. I know Valley View and Pecos. If the parents have issues, they can come down to the school and they can meet with that teacher, and she'll walk them through it and how to maneuver all that through the platform. So as far as placement testing and stuff, we've been doing that on a one-to-one basis, and then and that's been working out really well. We've had a good response from pretty much the majority of the parents bringing in their little ones to have them tested. We still have some that preferred not to do that, and that's fine. We'll wait till they come back. Hopefully that's soon. So there was some data that I did turn into Mrs. Cole, and in looking at our elementary, we don't have, the numbers are not that high at the elementary level, 3 through 5, that have Fs in a class or in one or more classes. However, if you look at that, you'll find that it's mostly in our 5th grade class that we do have the higher numbers between the 3, 4, and 5. But then you go into the secondary, and that's where it's a little different, because the numbers are a little higher. Especially when they're all on online, if they chose to take on online. And that's where I have been in with an assistant principal at one particular high school, and we've called parents in so we can show them exactly, and they bring their child so that they can see how to maneuver that, because the vice principal is really good with that. So we've done that with that to help them. Some of the parents who are willing to come in so we can show them how to maneuver in Canvas, or to show where to upload, or where the Zooms are, where the links are. So we've done that too. Did I answer your questions?
Jennifer, did you want to add anything on?
Yes, I would, please. Good evening, Superintendent Gottlieb and Board President Morales. So I just really want to commend Ms. Nieto Walker and our bilingual teachers for the work they're doing. Ms. Nieto Walker has been all over the district. She's in and out of schools. She sits in teacher Zoom meetings so she can provide feedback and help them grow and develop. And so just as far as the professional development piece to support the teachers who are teaching those kids, she's had PSYOP trainings at Roswell High, Goddard, University High, Early College High School, Mesa Middle School. She's had a professional development for strategies for supporting English learners, ELD Foundation and engaging EL in virtual content, Adelante training for Sunset and Nancy Lopez teachers. She's had a free webinar with, as she just stated, Dr. More Flores on essential elements in supporting English learners in distance learning, and then the Estrellita training for K1 teachers at Nancy Lopez and Sunset. So she's just done an incredible job of pushing out professional development to support the teachers, and then, just working with those individual families. So we have a student services and family engagement team reaching out to families and finding out what their needs are. Just today, we came across some students who are English learners that have Chromebooks, but they don't have access to the internet, and so we're connecting them with the access that they need. And so it's really, there's district-wide supports, and then there's just those individual family and student supports that are happening. As far as the after-school tutoring, we're doing that across the district. We have an average of 417 students that are participating every day in after-school tutoring. Of those 417, 99 of those are our English learners. So I think that we're doing lots to, we will continue to do that. We have more professional development coming up and our teachers.
We lost you, Jennifer.
Yes, Walker. Hello?
Yeah, we lost you. Repeat that last part, Jennifer.
Just that we'll continue to provide the professional development for the teachers and supports for the families.
Okay. One of the other things, board members, that we did this year when I came aboard, we found out that we had not been buying the necessary textbooks and reading books that were necessary for our EL students. So I know between the textbook portion, we spent well over $50,000 on getting those things in place, particularly for the elementary. The middle school and high school had some, not all. And Andrea's been working with Ms. Cole on that. And then we spent an extra, I think it was $10,000 for library books for the EL
I saw
kiddos.
the list.
So we've put quite a bit of time and effort into this. Our biggest problem, again, is having kids at home. Royce and Chad have been working real hard on, I think we're near the end of on this issue, and so is Mr. Blue, Ken Blue. He's working on another portion of it, where we'll be able to provide those kiddos and the parents, because you gotta remember, some parents don't want this. They want paper, pencil, that's what they're used to, that's what they want, and it's their option to choose that. But we should be the start of in January, we should be online. Notice I said, I'll knock on wood for us, Royce. We'll have everything in place for those that want internet and are willing to do that. We'll have that service for. We do have the Chromebooks in. Everybody could have a Chromebook. That's not much of a problem. And we've been working with those that have had accidents and broke or lost or destroyed the Chromebooks. So we'll stand for any questions on EL.
Mr. Gottlieb?
Yes, ma'am.
The equitable education of English language learners, as we know, is safeguarded by various civil rights laws and policies, as well as the Every Student Succeeds Act. And like you were saying, many of our ELLs either do not have the appropriate technology devices for online learning or access to the internet, as we were discussing. Have we at this time, or has the district received any word from the U.S. Department of Education to clarify guidance and information to address the needs of our ELL under those
Under Secretary Voice, we did not.
current circumstances?
Did not, none at all.
Okay.
Our only direction has come basically from Andrea, and then what little bit I've received from the PED, which has not been much this year. They're snowed under. I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, I can just tell you what the 3 days were like, and I'm going to give you a synopsis of that. But it is very difficult. We've been trying to get different entities to help us as we move forward. We've been very successful. It just takes longer than anticipated to get those things in place. As one of the superintendents said with Dr. Stewart, when we were online with Dr. Stewart last week, he just said, if I'd have known my 6 weeks plan was supposed to last a year, I'd have done something completely different. And no one knew for sure, because when we were writing those plans, we thought we were writing the plans to go into hybrid immediately. And that's not what happened. So those are some of those issues. And is that Dr. Stewart's fault? No. Is it the governor's fault? No. It is the issue of what we're dealing with in the area of a pandemic. Sorry, Royce. And so it's just one of those issues. We've not had much guidance on that area. But as you can see, the district has spent quite a bit of time and effort. And the board helped us out a lot by doubling the bilingual increment so that teachers can see that we value what they're doing. And for the first time ever, we actually gave an increment for fully using and certified your TESOL endorsement.
Wonderful.
So those things have been helpful. Is it immediate? No. Will it help down the road? The answer is yes.
And you know, Mr. Gottlieb and board members, I want to thank the district educators and our administrative team, because, I mean, I know they're springing into action to support those students and families that we're serving while they're balancing their own family responsibilities and trying to stay safe and healthy. I know our students must have access to an education, food, and other resources during this pandemic, and it is our expectations that the ELLs will benefit from the supplementary funding provided by the recent CARES Act. Is that where a lot of this purchase materials came from?
About 25,000 came
Okay,
out of
I was
that.
just asking you when I asked for a number.
So that kind of gives you an idea, but majority of that paid for the internet access outside the schools. It paid for the M13 filters, all the PPE equipment and cleaning supplies that we're doing, the backpack sprayers for disinfecting, those kinds of things. So an extensive amount of money was spent on that. Buying masks for students, buying masks for our staff, all those kinds of things, and then all the disposable items too.
And I was also reading a survey by the Migratory Policy Institute and the National Association of English Language Learners Program Administrators, and their top priority for ELLs during this emergency was identified as, of course, the support of increasing the access to technology and teaching or training for our teachers on instructional strategies to support ELLs in a distance or on those online learning environment. And I think Mrs. Nieto mentioned a lot of the training that they have, and that was one of my questions. Thank you, Mrs. Nieto, for that. And I want to tell the board members in our district that our parents are very thankful for our district, and they feel that they have done a great job informing the families in Spanish about the preventive measures to minimize the spread of the COVID and how to stay healthy. They are very thankful for notification in Spanish on school closures, the social support measures such as the meal distribution, and the detailed instruction on home-based learning. That they're very grateful for that. But of course, my key point to this is that the district still must ensure compliance with all above mentioned laws and policies, which should not prevent any school from offering those educational programs through distance learning. Let's see, is our district connected to any other resources like the Colorín Colorado links that you know of?
Andrea, she would have to answer that because I don't know. Andrea, are you still on?
Yes, could you repeat that? I didn't catch
I
that.
said, do you know if our district is connected to any resources, for instance, like the Colorín Colorado links?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, because I'm not familiar with that, so no. We just, with what the community has,
Mm-hmm.
that's the only resources that we've connected them to here. It's just within the community.
I know that they help school partners more effectively with multilingual families and best serve English language learners during this remote learning. And it's also free. Some of the links are free. And I know one of the things that the parents of the ELLs are reporting is that their students and families are overwhelmed by the multiple time-intensive assignments on every platform.
And we've cut back.
Yes. I know,
And we do have
Go ahead.
Engage, I'm sorry, I was just thinking about Engage New Mexico is also
Right.
a resource.
I was going to bring that up because Engaged New Mexico's really helped us out a lot.
forgot what I was gonna say, I lost my question.
Colorado.
Mrs. Sanchez, that's why also too, we're tweaking and our ELs, teachers have been changing their schedules at time to accommodate those so that they're not on the computer Zooming so much. So some of them have cut back on theirs and then have gone into the classroom instead to support the students that way. And that way just give the tutoring in the afternoon should they need it. Because we did hear that, you know, some of the parents, they were Zooming too long, so we tweaked it to help the EL student and the teacher. So there's still, it changes all the time. One teacher's schedule can change within a couple of weeks, depending on the student's needs.
I want to ask, I know that the ESA requires that students be identified for ELL status within the 30 days of enrollment on any of our schools. Students who enroll after the beginning of the school must send the required parent notice within 2 weeks of a student being placed in a language instruction program. Is that happening here in our district?
Yes, we had, I had a tester who was doing that, and then she moved on. So now it's me, so I'm getting them as fast as I can. So yeah, as soon as they come in, our priority was kindergarten. The teachers helped out in that and got certified and tested their students. So now we're in the process of testing the rest as soon as they come in, as quickly as we can.
So we are in compliance?
Yes, we're in compliance, and she's still looking for somebody else to come help her with that issue. The problem that we're having, and I'll get into this later a little bit, is the people that are willing to come in, substitutes for both teaching, EA positions, and janitors are almost non-existent.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't blame them.
Would you
And
be,
one thing too, Mrs. Sanchez, is that the state really wanted kindergarten to do it over the phone in just the 2 domains, so those tests wouldn't have been complete until they came back. So
So
we,
2
and like
domains
this
instead of
other
3.
districts have done, is brought them in on a one-on-one to do the whole test so that we can get the full picture and get them qualified if they qualify, and if they don't, then move them on.
so at this time, are we requiring or how often does the district require the HLS forms to be filled out by a parent? The home language surveys or home usage surveys?
They're only supposed to fill that out one time when they enroll. And when they enroll and they're new to the Roswell district, they do enroll. And then my secretary verifies if they're coming from another district. We ask for those records. But the original LUS form is the only one that should be in the Q folder.
And that's filled out just when they enroll as pre or kinder? Not every year?
No, it's just kinder.
One time.
No, but if they enroll from another district when they come in, like let's say they're an 8th grader, then we verify. Now, if they're from a state that's not a WIDA state like Texas, then that's the one that would stay in their folder.
Okay,
That when they came here.
all right. Thank you. That's it.
I have
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Ms. Nieta Walker, how do you identify newcomers? And then the second, go ahead.
Go ahead. The newcomers are identified by the parent or whoever's registering them, filling out that language usage survey. And if they put a yes to that another language is used in the household, that automatically, that we screen them. And then depending on how their score on the screener comes up.
So every child that enrolls, how many have we had this year? Can you tell me off the top of your head? I'm sorry.
That have come in, actually, and this is interesting, our kindergarten numbers have gone down because partly that's due for older siblings speaking to them in English a little bit more. But our numbers are a little bit lower in kindergarten.
Right, yeah, I'm kind of guessed that. Okay, so servicing our newcomers, are the teachers Zooming with them, or what other instruments are they using to ensure they get a quality education?
Well, those are the ones that we do have. They are Zooming for the most part. At the high school, middle school, they have that resource with Rosetta Stone. I do know one of the high schools has an extra tutoring class that they've made available for the newcomers. So, and then with the elementary too, those EL teachers going into the classroom, the bilingual teachers are a little bit different at the bilingual schools. For example, 2 of them, because they are classroom teachers, but they are certified in bilingual or TESOL, so they use those strategies within their classroom. And then the pull-out teachers at the other EL schools either Zoom with them or go in, but we are monitoring. And then I monitor also. I run some reports and I'll let them know, hey, you've got 3 fifth graders that are kind of in trouble. And so we keep in contact that way so we can kind of just monitor them. And as a matter of fact, and the teachers are on it because I've gotten emails, okay, and they know each student, this is what I've done, this is what I contact, this is what he said. So they're keeping on their students. They really know their students and why they're behind and they're catching up or what's going on.
Oh, good. So the ELL teacher is working in tandem with the classroom teacher?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. Gold?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Ms. Sanchez, thank you. There's one other point for the board that I want to bring up. We are fortunate enough to adopt the language arts series this year and foreign language material that will come to the board. We hope we have enough time in the spring to get that all to you. Whatever happened in the past, I can't tell you, but there was no bilingual material purchased at that time. We will ensure that that's part of that adoption cycle. So I hope as you look through that you'll see that that's partly, and one of the directions I've given the staff is no longer just book, we need technology like our math. So if there's CD or online or those things that when we are at remote, which will happen more often than what I'm being told, then it no longer is as just a standalone program, waiting in textbooks in the classroom, that it will be an online service also, like the math service. So that should be coming up this year, which is a considerable change for the district in its direction.
Thank you. Mr. Golub, are we still continuing with the TESOL program, paying the teachers to get certified in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, Ms. Nieto Walker and Ms. Cole, for the information. I have just a couple of questions I wanted to give the other members an opportunity to ask. How many ELL students are we servicing this year?
It's about 1,100, and that's not exact, but it's approximately 1,100.
Okay, and I'm assuming it went down a little bit compared to last year?
Yes.
And what would instruction or support look like for the students who receive a paper packet?
It depends on if it's the EL pull-out teacher. They do use the Language Power program, which focuses on the 4 domains of reading, writing, listening, and speaking, because I know one teacher, like I said, calls her kids if she needs to do that part. Some students, the packet from their regular classroom is sent home. But again, with any instructions that if they need help, they are welcome to call that teacher.
Okay,
Or
so,
call the EL teacher of that school. So the EL teachers have made themselves more than available for their kiddos.
Ask about the TESOL teacher.
and so the support from the TESOL teacher?
What does the support for the TESOL teacher do for those who are not in bilingual program? If it's a paper pencil packet, are you?
The same thing.
The same thing.
The same thing at the pull-out schools where they can call. And again, if that's the school that has that tutoring that finds out that they're getting a little behind, they have that time in the afternoon to tutor. It just depends. That's why it makes it easier for the teachers going into the classroom. One of them told me, because then I know what's going on. So if a student comes in the afternoon, I know a little bit of what's going on because I was in the classroom, which that helps a lot. So they have that extra tutoring time for them also.
So for the students that are not in school or don't have access to technology or internet, they do have access to get support from their teacher by phone, is that correct?
Yes, I do know. I have one bilingual teacher, and the student does not have Zoom capacity, or that something she can't Zoom, and so she calls her on the phone and walks her through it. The teacher has the paper in front of her, and the student, well, I would guess, has it in front of them because she's walking them through it.
Thank you. And I think it's a great idea to have the teachers who are providing that one-on-one support for families to understand the online platforms. You did mention that this is kind of done by school site right now. Until we get a teacher at every school who can be the support for those parents, is there something that we can do at district office to support the schools that don't have that contact person?
For which part?
To give that one-on-one support for the families to learn the online programs, like Seesaw or Canvas?
Well, the Canvas, I do have someone. I have someone who can do the Canvas part of it. It's the elementary she's willing to do the elementary. She just doesn't know the Seesaw, and I'm looking for someone. Right. But every student does have, every school, the EL teacher has done that. If not, I know at one school where there isn't an EL teacher, but they have an awesome Title I teacher, I believe that she is, and she gets in there and she'll help them. So if it's not the EL teacher, it's another teacher who will jump in. But if they don't have that, they're always welcome to call me, and I'll find somebody who can, from the district, who can try and do that, because I'm still trying to learn it myself.
You gotta remember, everybody's still a beginner at this, including our staff. And as Mr. Edwards has pointed out, and I visited with some other university professors, it took professors about 2 years to really become proficient on teaching online and using the programs. We're learning as we go along. That's why I brought up, if we knew what we were planning for the 6 weeks for hybrid, we'd have done something different, because it's not even close to what we're needing. So, and Jerry Holmes is working. Our first step was Power School, because the board had asked for Power School. And I'm hoping within a week or so, Jerry's gonna have Power School online, so that training video. And we've done lots on Canvas. I don't think we've done a lot on Seesaw, but we've done a lot on Canvas. I know that for sure, both in English and Spanish. Jennifer, has there been any, and I'm sorry, I should know this, but I've forgotten by now, any on Seesaw for parents?
Unless the schools have done school-specific training, we have not initiated anything at the district level, but we can certainly do so. The other thing that Andrea is working on is initiating a bilingual teacher PLC that will meet monthly, so that those teachers can share the strategies with each other that they're using in the classroom and support each other with technology. And so along the lines of an instructional council, it would be a bilingual teacher council, and so she's been working on the timing of that, just for your information.
And while I totally understand that it's gonna take a couple of years for us to reach the level of proficiency and understanding with using these programs, I'm always gonna give that friendly pressure push, because our families are having to use them now. Whether, it's not like we have time to really teach them, they're using them now. So I just wanna make sure that we continue to give them that support for it. Which brings me to my last question, and I'm sure, well, two parts. Can you tell me, Ms. Nieto, because I love the idea again so much, how many parents have we actually assisted with these online platforms for our ELO kiddos? About.
Just off the top of my head from different schools, I'm thinking it's only been about 11 of them. And that's because one school we had more than the others. But a lot of it too was some of the parents had older kids in the high school, so they were being showed that way. Now the parents that I've brought in at another middle school, you know, some kids, they like to fudge the truth a little bit with the parents. So even though the parent may know how to get in, they don't understand it of all the grading and where to get in the homework. So that's been where it's also been helpful with that too. But off the top of my head, with one certain teacher, it's been about 11. I've worked with about 4, but I don't know the other middle school. She was actually doing it on her own time, and I told her, no, I can help you with that. So she was helping her school. And she said, if it's my school and I'm willing to help her. So I can't give you the exact number.
No problem. Thank you, Ms. Nieto Walker, and please pass along our appreciation for all of their efforts and all the time that they're putting into it.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Nieto.
Okay,
Great job, thank you.
our next informational item is struggling students during distance learning. What are we doing? And there's lots that's going on, and Jennifer has lots to add to this. Tutoring, SAT plan, special ed testing. I do have Shelley on special ed testing. And what steps should parents take if they're concerned with their child's progress? There's a whole bunch of stuff that's on that, but I added just today, both in English and Spanish, something from the PED directly to parents with dealing with concerns with online or virtual learning. Good. So we just added that today. It was very good information, so it's on Facebook and the district webpage. So first of all, Jennifer, why don't you start off again with what are we doing for struggling students, and then we'll get into the tutoring, SAT, and special ed testing.
Yes, sir. So we are, where do I start? I'll start with the after-school tutoring and those supports for the students. So again, we have several students that are participating in the after-school tutoring. We've also structured in some systems of support at the schools for the online learning, so that, and it's district-wide, each school needs to have their system of support in place. And so the schools have been working on that in their plans, so that they're offering virtual office hours for students to be able to connect with teachers, additional time during the day for the students to connect. All of the schools are now offering Zoom meetings for parents so that they can ask questions about virtual learning. Just recently, yesterday, we had 2 Zooms. One was at University High and the other was at, I believe it was at Sierra Middle School. And so they offered the APEX trainings for parents. And so just really engaging those families in learning about the technology, about the grading systems, and so forth. And again, it's very school specific. We do have tiers of support, but it looks a little different at each school because we have different staff available at each school, and we're in a very fluid situation where we don't always have the same staff there every day due to the circumstances. So all of those things are entered in, and then just the ongoing professional development and looking at how we're grading our assignments and how we're creating quality assignments. So we've contracted with SREB, which we have used that particular group for the past few years. So many of our teachers have good relationships with the trainers from SREB, and this year we are intentionally focusing on our 90-day planning and looking at the priority standards and really developing high-quality assignments so that it's not too much for our students, because what we did in person can't be the same virtually. We have to change the way we're instructing.
We lost you, Jennifer.
Oh, it's my phone, I apologize. And so just a lot of systems, so that the grading is really a reflection of the learning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. So, the supports are there for the students. Again, it's additional support after school, support structured in the school, with the virtual office hours, expectations for Zooming, offering supports to the families, and Zooming with them and just being very available to answer their questions, and then offering professional development to our principals and teachers.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead on tutoring now? Which you mentioned a number of students already.
I didn't, and so we have, so we're doing tutoring through ELTP, and looks a little bit different at each school. And so our K through 3 students have the opportunity to come to in-person tutoring, and then our 4th through high school students, of course, have to do their tutoring virtually. And so the kids have access to most of our curriculum through the curriculum platform. And so, for example, Savas is our math curriculum for elementary, and so there's that virtual learning, and so they're still able to access that and receive those supports from the teachers during the after-school tutoring. And again, it's very school-specific. The principals take leadership of that at their school, and so at some schools we have lots of participation, and some schools not so much. But overall, we have about 417 that are participating on an average daily basis, and 65 of those are students with disabilities.
We're losing you again. Okay. Any questions on tutoring for Jennifer, since she's going in and out? Okay. How about SAT planning?
So Mrs. Bolaños is still overseeing our SAT processes, and she just finished meeting. I believe she's met with our stat chairs twice now, and we were very happy to have those stat chairs back in place at the buildings, working through that process. And so they're just, continuing to work through the multi-level systems of support, SAT, as they have in the past. But the barriers that we're facing with that right now are the high number of failures that we're having. And so students are referred to STAT through the PLC processes. So our teachers meet in PLC, and when there's a STAT referral, then they discuss that particular student. It goes to the building STAT chair. But again, with the numbers of students that were struggling the first quarter with their grades and the high number of failures, that lends to some significant concerns about retention or credit recovery and those kinds of things that we've discussed. And so Mrs. Bolaños is working with those STAT chairs in that process and how we're doing parent notifications. And so she'll be meeting with principals tomorrow morning at that meeting. But the processes are still in place. It's just everything is virtual now.
So let me add on to that for the board.
Okay.
Jennifer and Jennifer both are working on a letter for me to Dr. Hand, and he's our advisor. He's the deputy secretary. Very, very nice gentleman, very educated. The lucky part for us is he's actually been in the school district. He's actually taught. He's been a principal. He's been an administrator at central office. So he understands the complexity of a school district and individual schools. On our SAT plans, we still have to deal with the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. It's not just SAT anymore, so you have all that. The LSC did have a report out And they, they kind of threw up their hands because they see the same problem that board members are seeing, is that, for example, 50% of your kindergartners could be retained next year. Well, I'm sorry, board members, that can't work out. You don't have enough teachers, you don't have enough rooms,
space.
you don't have things. So what are some solutions that are out there that could help alleviate those issues? So the SAP process, we're working through that. We'll work with Dr. Han and get some more guidance from him on that process, and still using the tier 3 support. The one thing I just want to caution the board, 99% of your staff are working really hard, all the way to late at night, because not all kids can get on during the daytime, or don't have access, or they don't have their parents' phones, the phones they're taking to work. So I just want to caution you on that portion we put on our staff, because the majority of your staff aren't playing golf during the day. You'll have your people that will do that, but 99% of your staff are spending an inordinate amount of time working very hard on that. And they're struggling with this SAP process just as we are at central office, trying to find out the right idea for their kids. I will let you know that a group of us, Dr. Garcia, Veronica Garcia, myself, Karen Trujillo from Las Cruces, Stan from, I don't know his last name, from Albuquerque from APS, we met yesterday and came up with a letter to send to Dr. Gwen Warnament and Dr. Han and through Dr. Stewart to the governor. This is our concern, and it all deals with the SAP process, is that we have juniors and seniors that need to take CET hands-on courses. And if they don't get it now, I don't know if they're going to graduate, and I don't know if your juniors are going to be able to make it to the senior level the next year. I'll give you some examples. Nursing, automotive, welding, metal fabrication, our culinary arts. These are all certified programs. Now, I say something else. You have a very specialized program at Roswell High School. And he can't even bring those 10 girls in who could be highly qualified for huge scholarships nationwide. And I'm talking MIT, Yale, these kinds of places, because they can't come in and do their work. They can only do it in school. They cannot do it at home. There's no way. 3D printers, the technology, the guidance, the rebuilding of these projects, there's no way. Then you have Go Rockets, and that is actually a STEM project called Go Rockets. That's not going on. So as you can see, we have a lot of issues that relate to this SAT planning, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 support. We're not able to do with these kids, and we're not asking for a lot. We're saying 1 to 5, 1 to 3, something to bring them in after school or whatever the situation we can to get them certified in those programs. I mean, let's look at this real simple. New Mexico has 400 traveling nurses right now. They need 200 to 300 more right now. We can't even bring our girls and ladies in, gentlemen in for the nursing program to do the certification portion of it. So there are some real obstacles from K to 12 into our college programs that we are really struggling with right now. And what's it going to mean? You cannot teach breaks online and do the certification of breaks online. How are you going to do welding online? You can't. I'm sorry, you can't. And so we have done everything we possibly know to reach out. So we're at our last straw. Our letter was very open, very kind, very courteous, very respectful, but we have some issues that are really tugging at the end of kids and teachers, and I know school board members, because some of you have talked to me about this already. So I don't have a prime answer for you, but I'm telling you there are a lot of people that are looking and trying to figure out what the answer is. This is new for all of us. So,
Mr. Gottlieb, may I add something about the process? So just as far as assessment goes, I mean, that we have some real barriers with assessing our kids and getting relevant data for teachers to use for us to implement those tiers of intervention, because we don't have all of our students participating in the assessment. And sometimes when they are participating in the online assessment, they have help at home. So the data that we're receiving is not relevant data, and it's not consistent data. So we're having to use paper and pencil assessment, we're having to use the online assessment, and without those consistent data points, it's very difficult for us to implement the tiers and really meet the instructional needs of those students through this app process.
For that sake, what Jennifer's talking about, I actually had some parents call me and say, I took the test for my kid. I couldn't get my kid to take the test, and I had a great time. And they said, I learned a lot, but it doesn't help us with, is it accurate information? And that's the problem when they're not in school, is we don't know what's going on. It's just like gonna be finals at Christmas time, guys. Our finals are gonna be not what is required by the state or board policy. It's gonna be an online assessment for your finals, for your grades. We can't bring them in. So we have, when Jennifer talks about data and some of those issues, we really have some issues. There is no real way around it.
And it's not just us.
And to cover everybody's base here, look at what's going on in the state of New Mexico, and you want to get closer to home, look at Chaves County. I mean, there's no easy answer for this for anybody, because it's so difficult. We'll stand for any questions on SAT, but I thought I should bring those out to the board.
Well, I have some general questions, so I'll wait till we're done and then just ask.
Okay.
I have a couple on SAP, Ms. Cole. I want to thank and acknowledge the district for bringing it back this year to make sure that we're doing them. Ms. Cole, have the SAP meetings started already for some of our students, or are we barely about to start some of those?
I've started, and in other places, they haven't started. So one of the things we really needed to do is meet with those SAT chairs. And as I said, Mrs. Bolaños has done that because they're the ones who pushed that out at the building level. Plus, we were just, dealing with providing professional development in Canvas and, supporting our teachers move into the online learning. So to answer your question, we will be having more of those meetings starting now. The other thing that we're working on is updating our stat forms to align them to current statute because they were outdated. And so that's a work that Mrs. Bolaños is doing with those stat chairs as well.
Thank you. Do we still have that date in December that it's required for a student to be on SAT and for us to make known if there's an interest in retaining that student?
Yes, ma'am, and that's the letter that Mr. Gottlieb is referring to.
That's one of our parts of SAT.
So we're coming up on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so it's definitely.
And the last question, I think I know the answers, but for a kiddo on SAT, they don't have an option to access in-person learning as part of the intervention like a student with an IEP, correct?
Good try, Ms. Morales.
I'm gonna keep trying, sir. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cole.
I like that. That was good. That was good. Special ed testing. How about we stand for questions on special ed testing? I do have Shelley available. Special ed testing is huge.
Good evening, and I'm here to be able to answer any questions, and I have quite a bit of information, so I can tell you that we have done special ed testing all through the summer with both my psych group and my diag group, as well as all my evaluators, speech, OT, PT, vision and hearing, deaf and hard of hearing, social work, psych and diags are all continuing to evaluate. We have found a lot of ways to be able to do so, and I have a very resourceful team. I'd be happy to go on a little bit more if you want me to, or answer any questions that you have.
Shelley, all your IEPs are held virtually, right?
They are, unless we have a parent that absolutely has no way of being able to attend. And then we might set up a room where like a principal or an IEP specialist would meet with the parent and the student if they're of age to be part of the IEP, so that they have that access, because we want to make sure we're not denying that access to be a valuable part of the individualized education plan. And so we go through and do that. But I will tell you, to the fullest extent possible that we're able to do that, yes, we do that, to be able to ensure that we're doing our social distancing. And there is never, ever more than 5 people ever in the room, but we really do try to limit that and have everybody come in, especially staff that we know by Zoom. But we will work what we need to be able to accommodate and make sure that our students and our parents have access to every part of the IEP, including the participation in making one.
Are the IEP specialists finding that holding Zoom IEPs are productive, or are they having the same difficulties or more difficulties, I guess, getting
So
the
I will
parents?
say that we've gotten pretty good at this, because I will tell you that we've been Zooming since last March, and I am pretty proud of my teams. Pretty well amazed at what they've done to be able to make sure that they have hit all their timelines, been able to show access for students and families, and they have found ways to be able to bring parents in. Sometimes it's been more creative than others, and they have done what they needed to for their families, gone, like Mike said, over and above, some even into the evening, and early mornings, different things, whatever they needed to be able to accommodate. But yes, ma'am, we are making sure that those are happening, and we are working with families to be able to do that. We do them either virtually through a number of ways, Skype, Zoom, over the phone, send out maybe even draft IEPs and evals for them to be able to look at, so that if they don't have any access virtually, we have brought them in, like I said, with a specialist or a principal there to be able to review those documents if they were unable to. Many different ways. So we're working hard. I'm pretty proud of our teams.
Congratulations. Good job.
Thank you.
Shelly, I'm a little worried because most of our teachers don't have access to their students in person to maybe identify some of the needs and concerns for students who should be tested. What safeguards do we have in place to help make sure that we're not missing any kiddos that should probably be tested?
So I have a lot of safeguards in place. We have child fine all the way from age 3 to 22 as there's needs that come and arise. I will tell you that we have continued strong with our C2B, our FIT moving over. We've come up with new ways to be able to do that and address any of our students moving over from any that would birth the 2 that would have concerns and still be able to be evaluated. We have found new ways to be able to do that. We are continuing hope with a tremendous amount of initial evaluations as well as all of our reevaluations. We have done all of our different assessments, Woodcock Johnson, WISC, ADOS. There is some limitations in some of them, and teams have noted when they've had those, but they have utilized all the parts of the New Mexico Technical Evaluation Assistance Manual to really use their licensure to make sure that they are doing very equitable testing and making sure that they can stand by those decisions. We have used the RISD, which is a review of existing evaluation data, where you're talking about looking at all the data we have in place, and they don't just look at the existing data between March to now, but they look back within 3 years, any outside reports that are brought in, any things that we're looking at now and in this last little past to be able to look at. Also, as there's any that are referred over from SAT, Jennifer Bolaños and I work strongly to be able to do that and assign those. And I have a very equitable process that's done through our account to be able to show that when students come in, we're doing that in date order, as well as all of our reevaluations. I have an incredible team there that keeps things very orderly so that we can make sure that we handle all of the 2,220 children that we have in special services right now, as well as any initial or child fine that we have coming in. We have a weekly child fine that goes on in our building, actually right down from my office, so I can ensure those processes are in place as well. So there's a lot of different things going on like that, as well as if a parent reaches out directly, there's processes in place on that for either Jennifer Bolaños or Ms. Cole or myself.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I hope that answered it.
Yes.
I want to remind the board that we also have Helen Jeremiah, who's out a lot. And Helen is very, very good. And if she sees concerns, she'll let Jennifer Nicole know right away, or Jennifer Bolaños. We also have Kristen Salyer that's out there that's doing the same thing. So if we run across these kids who are not having services, we just picked up a couple kids that were hiding. It was Helen that was able to work through those processes. So there's different ways we're looking at the services needed in those steps.
We do also have a process, Hope, for any students coming in the district, working with the secretaries on noting any of those that have had any IEP services or evaluation before, and going through our account office and quickly getting those records and doing, what we call is a 45-day placement form, where we look at the existing IEP and evaluation that are currently in place to be able to best model that right away, and then give time for our teams to be able to spend time with those students to be able to figure out the best services that they're also seeing and doing an annual IEP, but so that we don't miss any moments with those kids to get them started right away and have the best placement compared to what their IEP from an outside state or an outside district within New Mexico comes in with.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And again, on
Any other
the
further
last
questions for me?
part on that, thank you, Shelley, I appreciate it. I'm very proud of your work and your staff. I would put them up against anybody in the state. I'll be quite honest.
Thank you.
They-
Thank you.
Good.
I would like to say, if you see a special educator out there, ancillary, special ed teacher, or EA, will you please let them know how thankful we are for their dedicated service, because they've pushed hard to make sure our in-person, virtual, remote services are continuing. And I do know that they spend a lot of hours and they take it to heart. So please let them know that. Thank you very much tonight.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley.
The issue on the issue is really this last part, what steps should parents be taking concerned with the child's progress? This is where I know a lot of times it comes to the board, and you really need to refer it back to the building principal and to the teachers. This is owned by those sites directly. Now, if they don't take care of it, then they should bring it up. But that ownership really belongs at the school site, with the teachers, with the principal. You know, we look a lot of times from down here, you can say you can fix this and you can fix that. The only place it can be really fixed is with the teachers and the building principal working on those issues. It's a very difficult situation. And COVID has made this very, very difficult.
So I have a couple of questions that I said I'd hold off, and they kind of relate to number 2. So, Ms. Cole, you mentioned that that teachers have virtual office hours. Does every teacher have virtual office hours? And if so, how would a parent go about finding out when those are?
So, Ms. Kirk, yes, to answer your question, every teacher should have virtual office hours. Typically, those are going to be on a Wednesday, but it may be different at each school, and as you're looking for them, I would first suggest that you go to the school's website, which is what we're working on right now, and I think Mr. Gottlieb will probably talk some about that, but you should also be getting that information from the teacher. Those contacts should be happening at the secondary level. They happen typically through the first period or the advisory class. But the website would be the first point that you would look for virtual office hours. They should also be posted within the student's Canvas page. So
What was that last comment? I didn't hear that.
Students Canvas page.
Oh, students
they
can't.
should always be posted on the Canvas page.
Yes. You mentioned SREB. Refresh my memory. I can't remember what that is.
Southern
Yes,
Regional.
ma'am, it's the
Go ahead,
Southern
Jennifer.
Regional Education Board.
Oh, okay.
And it's a consortium of several states, and it's a vendor that we use, and so they, you may know them through the high schools that work that they do, but they assist with they have assisted with our CTE programming and growing those programs of study. That's typically how we've used them in the past, but they also offer professional development such as interdisciplinary instruction, teaching content within the CTE classes. They've expanded what they've done, and we've expanded what we're utilizing them for. We actually have a coach that is coming in. Her name is Philippa, and she's working with our counselors, our elementary and secondary counselors, to go through the ASCA standards and develop social emotional check-ins for the students and supports for them and their families during this time. We also have Shelley Flygar, who is working. She's done a lot of work with our middle schools and will continue to do that. She's the one who's leading the 90-day planning coaching sessions. There are actually 6 different trainers, and I apologize, I don't have the list in front of me right now, but Southern Regional Education Board.
Okay, and then my last question is, are we, and I don't know if I dreamt this or if this was mentioned, are we still holding to the 1 assignment a week? Is that given information?
No.
Ms. Cole?
What we're asking schools to do is 2 graded assignments per week.
2.
So obviously at the secondary level, if you have 8 classes and that's 2 graded assignments per week, then those students would have 16 assignments that week. Now, principals are working with their teachers on that because, again, I want to go back to the assignments that teachers gave during in-person instruction have to evolve to fit the virtual world, because this is a difficult time for kids and teachers to transition to virtual learning. And so with that, we have to evolve that instructional methodology. And so it's it's a learning process for everyone. It certainly is a struggle for students who have 8 classes to learn how to structure their day and make sure that they're on schedule and do all of those things. But just with regards to the graded assignments, that's why it's so important that we have the professional development for teachers and that we support them through their professional learning communities, because what I'm finding is happening is that we have some teachers who really want to squeeze in all of that work that they did during in-person instruction. And so even though they're having only 2 graded assignments per week, those assignments may be 50 or 60 different problems over several different learning targets. And so the idea is not to do more work in one assignment. It's really to align the practice and the work that students are doing to the learning that should be happening. And, I just want to reiterate that it's a process for teachers to learn this, and for us to learn this, and for the students to learn this. And so, we'll be talking more with our principals tomorrow morning about that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you. Thank you. All my questions have been answered, and I have had several ask me questions. Of course, I have my own questions because of my situation with my son. So it helps getting that information out there. So thank you so much. I appreciate all that you're doing and everything the principals are doing and the teachers are doing. I know they're working extremely hard, and I appreciate it, honestly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to continue what Ms. Kirk is saying. I wanted to acknowledge our teachers as well. As you all know, I have 3 kiddos at the elementary, middle, and high school level, and they all have their own challenges, very different challenges. But I wanted to thank the teachers for contacting the kiddos, contacting me, and giving that flexibility So Ms. Wooten, Ms. Davis, Ms. Brewer, Ms. Udi, Mr. Harden, Mr. Gutierrez, Mr. Helmstettler, thank you all so much. Those efforts are greatly appreciated and help us keep going. And I did have just one question. I want to point out that we know that teachers are the biggest in-school factor related to student success. And I believe one of the best ways to support our students is to support our teachers. So this year is different than any year before. So are we giving teachers more time to plan quality lessons, for grading, outreach, self-care than what we've done in normal years outside of the teacher hours and PD? Are we giving them a little extra time to do these other things this year?
I don't know where you're gonna find the extra time.
What are we taking off their plate? Because we're putting, and we need it, we need more PD, we need office hours, we need that stuff. So what are we taking off? Because I'm afraid of the burnout. We're
Well,
not even halfway through this year, and I'm
it's-
scared of the burnout.
It's already there.
So what
And
are we
it's
gonna
not-
do?
And it's not just Roswell, it's
Right.
nationwide, it's worldwide. It's not,
Right.
it's not just to Roswell's problem. The problem is that what do you take off?
Have we asked them, like, because they're great problem solvers, have we had the teacher talk, say, what can we take off? What can we get off of your plate this year? And give them that voice in it.
We can do that, but there's issues that we cannot take off. For example, the professional development, that's not. What we did do is say, okay, here's, you set your own office hours to help with your kids on Wednesday. What you do within that period while you're waiting for office hours, if you have any contact, is your time to work on. Now, some are in the building, some are at home, so how they use that is up to them. The hours are mandated by the state. The state has not been willing to change the hours of school. Have not. We still have to meet all the required hours, and it's longer this year, not shorter, because we have longer days required and a longer school year by 10 days. I will tell you, the LASC and LFC are looking at a minimum of 25 more days for elementary and another 10 days for middle school and high school.
But hopefully that would be in person, so that'll be.
I'm not putting my bet on anything, Mr.
Yeah.
Morales, at this point in time. So we'll be happy to do that, but the problem is who's gonna do the SATs? Who's gonna be on the PLCs? Who's gonna be part of the 90-day plans?
Again, so I guess my concern is our great teachers, like who we recognize tonight, are gonna be doing it on top of everything else they're doing. So I'm just trying to think of what flexibilities do we have to say, teachers, every day, give 1 hour or 30 minutes of at-home practice with your parent, or here's a question of the week, so that within that time, you can do your grading, your self-care, your planning, your whatever, because that's part of it. We talked about the quality lessons.
Well, the high schools, and high schools particularly, already have their periods off periods, so it's not quite the same. You don't have your elementary still have the PE period, which is, I notice, a short time. It's not very consistency. They don't have library this year, so they don't have the library. I don't have an answer for you, I'll be quite honest. Because as soon as you start looking at the demands that are required on school districts, schools, and teachers, classrooms, I don't know where that time is. I'll just be very, very honest. Because every time you turn your back, somebody's asking for something else. Who's gonna do the after-school tutoring? Who's gonna talk to the parent that needs help directly from the classroom work? And the issue is there's no extra people out there. As you saw by our list, we're still short people. So we can ask, be happy to ask, but I will tell you, it's one of those things like you can't stop tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. This has been one of our concerns 8 years, when I was here, left 8 years ago, is what are they gonna take off to the plate? They've been adding to the plate, and since I left, the plate has been added even more.
A whole nother plate.
Yeah, and nothing's been taken off, so this is not new with COVID, this is
The
new
buffet.
from when Hilda retired, when Mona retired. I mean, it's just, he knows that from the last time he was on the board. That was one of the discouragements. what are we gonna do, what do we stop?
So what do we-
The only
more
thing
and more
I can
every
tell
day.
you is that they're not having to do all the hall duties and the lunch duties and playground duties and after-school duties and bus duties and all those bad weather day duties and those things, but it doesn't make up, and let's be honest, it does not make up for the extra work that staff are doing right now. And I don't know the answer to that.
Sir, do we still have the Superintendent's Advisory Council?
Yes, but we haven't met because it's another Zoom.
Right, but I'm just trying to think of how do we connect you with teachers?
We can make a connection out there, I can promise you, but, there'll be things that I'll say absolutely not because it's under state statute.
But like the PD, is that required every Wednesday, our teachers?
We need a minimum of 80 hours,
Right.
minimum of 80 hours. And the problem that's gone on in the past is a lot of the professional development wasn't offered because you couldn't do it before school, you couldn't do it after school, you can't do it during school. We actually have an opportunity to actually provide some consistent PD development because it's one of the questions I came in is, what does your block scheduling look like? How do you teach on an hour-and-a-half block? What does that look like? What is a PLC? What does that professional learning community look like? How much training's been done on that?
It's so
Canvas
hot.
came along. Seesaw came along.
And so do teachers get credit for participating in outside district training, or does it have to be 80 hours in district?
Right now, everything has to be where we can verify it.
Okay.
And that's one of those tough issues. Now, does it have to be every Wednesday? But no, and it doesn't happen every Wednesday, but guess what? The building principal also has his or her meetings that staff had to be part of. As a teacher, you well know that. They have their own things that they have to take care of. What's going on? What's the next thing coming down the road? What are the building issues? Are you all wearing masks? Are you trying to be as safe as possible? What are the special ed stuff? Where are you at SAT? I'm just gonna tell you, it doesn't end. But we'll be happy to offer that out there.
Madam President, many moons ago when I was here, on more than one occasion, we had this conversation. And it even came to the point after the fourth or fifth time that Mr. Gottlieb provided us a breakdown of what the state mandated and where the teachers were. And I don't think that we ever found the time to give them to talk to teachers, tutor, just to have a chance to breathe. Okay? It's only gotten worse since then, like Mr. Gottlieb said, and it's something that we've talked about for years. The 10 years before I was the board member, sitting in this room and on committees, how do we help the teachers? And because the state continues to mandate, we want this many minutes added extra, but they don't, it's an unfunded mandate. So the the state's not gonna pay for it, and we only get our funding for the minimum.
But we'll ask the question.
Thank you. And again, I just want to point out, I get it. I hear you. Loud and clear, I hear you. I'm just worried because in the COVID world, them taking care of their own families at home, you know, the stress of COVID, like everything else, today and the talk 5 years ago, I feel like it's even more stressful because of all these other circumstances. So thank you for at least taking it on and seeing what possible ideas there might be.
Thank you, Ms. Morales.
Any other
Appreciate
questions,
it.
Board?
Board members, thank you all very
No.
much.
Mr. Gottlieb, do you think at this time we should be concerned about losing some of our workforce?
Oh, yeah.
It's already happening.
It's
And
happening?
It's happening statewide and it's happening nationally. In fact, I believe the last meeting by LFC or LSC, I don't know if it was the finance or the study committee, one of those ones we're talking about that very issue. I know that's on this agenda with Dr. Stewart on Thursday. The issue of finding staff, replacing staff, people retiring because they just said, I just can't do this anymore.
That's what I'm hearing.
And you've been having that consistently now for about 6-7 years, pretty strong. And the universities are not able to turn out the students because they have to be going into the programs. So it is a constant battle.
And I don't think the numbers are as bad as they really should be because a lot of districts have frozen the positions. So therefore, the vacancies and things like that aren't as high as what they really should be if we're back in school.
Exactly. In fact, the virtual schools, there is no limit. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Yeah, these virtual schools, there's no class size limit.
Oh.
Yeah, wow is right. It's quite a huge task. Good questions, though. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're gonna move on to approval of the minutes.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of October 22nd, 2020.
Are there any corrections or deletions to the minutes?
I didn't see
Yes.
it.
Well, how are you going to do that?
On the action item.
Okay,
I'll update it.
all right.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion made by Ms. Sanchez and a second made by Ms. Kirk. May I get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales.
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Mona Kirk.
Yes.
James Edwards.
Yes.
Milburn Dolan.
Yes.
Okay, the ayes have it and the motion carried. The consent agenda is now up.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the consent agenda, approve the October bills, authorize November bills, and approve November bars, and approve a interfund temporary cash transfer.
Is there any discussion?
I have a quick question. The speech therapy solutions and the therapy options, are those additional services that can be provided by district personnel when they contract themselves
See if
to you?
Shelley's still online. She's not.
No.
But from what I can best tell you on those, we don't have enough people online to provide all the
Gotcha.
services. So we actually have to contract those services
Okay.
out to fulfill all the issues. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Any other questions? Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second made by Mr. Dolan. May I have a roll call, please?
Hope Morales.
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Mona Kirk.
Yes.
James Edwards.
Yes.
Milburn Dolan.
Yes.
Okay, the ayes have it and the motion carried. Okay, action items are next on the agenda. First, we have approval of Superintendent Search Option 2.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the search option, Superintendent Search Option 2.
Thank you. Okay, board members, you have notes from the 4 options we discussed back in February in your board book. After reviewing the February meeting and notes, I would like to take a motion to correct the language. The board selected option 2, but the option should state external and not internal search. So before we take that, is there any other discussion or questions related to option 2?
So it's board-directed internal search, external candidates.
Yes, external candidates.
Okay.
May I have a motion to update the language for option 2 from internal to external candidates?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second by Ms. Sanchez. May I have a roll call, please?
Hope Morales.
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Mona Kirk.
Yes.
James Edwards.
Yes.
Milburn Dolan.
Yes.
The ayes have it and the motion carried. Now we have approval of the superintendent search.
Jeez. I got it now. I recommend approval of the superintendent search, Madam President.
Is there any discussion?
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Are we having community input and involvement in this superintendent search?
Okay.
So that's in table 1,
That's part of the plan for the
Okay.
community meet and greets.
the number 3 search process.
The answer on that, Mr. Morales, is that we had that discussion whether or not the communities really have an input. And as you well know, the last group felt very disenfranchised with that process. So the idea, if under the COVID ruling, and that's a big one, we would have those 3 meet and greet groups where the board members would send people in, with the candidates should say, I'd like to have these people, we would do that in an open session. But I hate to put that in there
In
as
there.
a formal process, because we don't know what COVID's gonna do to us.
So, depending on that, if we're unable to meet in person, would we be able to handle a virtual, maybe doing a Zoom with them?
We could possibly do a Zoom if that happens to be the issue.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry,
A minimum of 300 people.
300? Okay.
Oh, okay.
We would have to do something different.
If you want more than,
Oh, I think 300 would be.
Perfect.
So, it depends upon the COVID situation and the desire of the board at that time. So that's why I left that pretty open and pretty general, so you can make that decision as you go forward.
But the meet and greet is exactly that, a meet and greet, where, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time we brought them in, and the public was brought in and they got the meet and greet. Now, the deal that Mike is talking about is when we formed those other committees, and they got a chance to not only just meet and greet, but a bunch of them worked on committees that actually got to, it was like a 4-tier process on the interview, and then they came to us and we interviewed them. But they also had been interviewed by community, stakeholders, administration, and if I'm not mistaken, faculty or teachers. So, and like Mr. Gottlieb did say, some people felt disenfranchised the way that situation was handled, and I would have to agree with him on that, because ultimately we're going to have to make the choice. And but then again, like Mr. Gottlieb also said, we don't know what's gonna happen here and tomorrow. So I would agree with if we're gonna do just a general meet and greet, that's fine with me. If we are able to even do that, because if it's 5-1, heck, we might not even be able to do that. Well, yeah, we would be able to do the interview.
are we all on the same page related to the
Yes.
meet and greet?
Yes.
With me? Any other questions? And the only thing I wanted to ask Mr. Gottlieb, I saw a couple of spelling errors.
Yes.
Can we get it looked by somebody before we share these publicly?
I will go over it again.
There was superintendent ended with a D instead of a T in a couple parts, so, yeah.
Okay. I will verify that with you
repetitions.
again.
And I will too, I'll check it myself.
Yeah,
It's been looked at, but
one more time.
one more time.
Okay. So may I have a motion to approve the superintendent search?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
So
I'll
moved.
Okay. We have a motion made by Ms. Sanchez and a second made by Mr. Dolan. May I get a roll call, please?
Hilt Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
The ayes have it and the motion carried. We now have approval of the date change for the December board meeting.
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the date change for the December board meeting.
Is there any discussion or questions?
I do want to tell you, thank you very much for changing that date. I just don't know how that surgery is going to turn out, and I know I won't be available that night, so I appreciate that very much.
Okay, just for our audience watching, Mr. Gottlieb, the new date we are proposing is Thursday, December 10th, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, at 6 p.m. Thank you, ma'am. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
We have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second made by Ms. Sanchez. May I get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan,
Yes.
The ayes have it and the motion carried. We now have discussion and possible vote on the adjustment of staff and student holiday schedules.
I'll make my recommendation, and then we'll be open for a lot of discussion. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the adjustment of staff and student holiday schedule.
Okay. Board discussion and questions?
Right.
Excuse me.
Madam President, I think it's a good idea. We know with the alarming number of cases, and no matter what happens on holidays, people are gonna get together.
Yes.
People are gonna come from states with higher concentrations of COVID cases than we have. And I think that by going, where everybody working from home that possibly can, it would just maybe reduce some additional cases. Maybe those who come down with it will realize before they go back to school and infect everybody in the school, more staff, additional students, God forbid. So my personal opinion is that it would be best for the district at this time. And that's based on what the governor may do.
Yes, and the recommendation for our audience is 1 week after Thanksgiving and 1 week after Christmas. The district would be totally remote with the exception of very few people because of the issue. And I'll give you a prime example right now. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and the number's gonna sound small to you, but it's not, and I'll explain. We have had about 13 active cases. Now, what does that mean? Well, within that 13, 8 of them have been positive. The problem is how they come in contact with everybody. We have actually had to close down programs at schools. We've had to have, I'll give you another example. We had one of the schools lost all the custodians because we had a water break, and immediately they rushed there to clean up the water so it wouldn't be damaged. And by darn, one person had COVID. Didn't know that at the time, but if you follow the guidelines, now they're out for a minimum of 14 days. And the worst part is they may get COVID. So this is hopefully a chance to give a break before we bring back people to school. And we have that special ed, tutoring, staff, students, and the teachers working directly from the classrooms, the staff here at central office. I would tell you right now, if we had to follow the same guidelines as business of 4 cases in a 14-day, we'd be closed.
Yep.
I'm just telling you, it's, the count is up to, and I don't have the new student count, but last count of Friday was 64 kiddos have actually contacted COVID. And the staff, as of today, we have 56. So what I'm telling you is it is a virus. It's hard to control. We're doing everything that's possible, but I cannot control what's outside of school. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell people that they can't see their grandmother or their grandfather, or they're not going to get together for Christmas or Thanksgiving. I can't make that choice for them. But I have a concern on that. I do believe there may be an extra announcement from the governor on Thursday. Maybe, maybe not. But this at least gives us and the board some decision-making on that choice.
Okay.
Well, I commend you, Mr. Gottlieb, for having the forethought, because I did have a teacher reach out to me and say the same thing. She said, I have a son coming in from college, and their college is shutting down. He has nowhere to go, so he has to come home. But I'm worried because he's coming all the way from New York into Roswell, and what's going to happen in between times. And she said, I'm worried that something may happen. I don't want to go back to school. I want to work remotely. And I said, well, hang on. We've got a decision to make tonight. So she can rest assured that if this passes, then at least she'll have a week after. And I know some colleges are doing the time from Thanksgiving all the way to New Year's.
Some are, that's correct.
Yeah, they're having that time off to alleviate some of the stress from COVID. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
So, Mr. Gottlieb and board members, is it a possibility we can consider going to full remote learning from November the 30th all the way through January the 4th? I think it's going to allow families to quarantine after the traveling and the holidays. We need to avert the total shutdown as cases continue to climb.
Well, actually, it's even a week after January.
Okay.
So that is a board decision. Ms. Sanchez, Madam President, members of the board, what I was giving you at first is, here is a first appearance. I can tell you this is being looked at statewide. The cases are astronomical. And the concerns of the death rate, the hospitalization, as if you were trying to get into the emergency room today, you could not get in either hospital. So it's one of those issues. What I brought to the board was a week after Thanksgiving and a week after Christmas. I do believe the state's going to do something different, but if the board wants to do anything else, that's a total board decision. You are control of the calendars and those dates.
Mr. Bowers?
So,
I'm sorry if I wasn't listening. Did you stress that we'd be working from home and the
Yes.
kids would be remote learning?
Right. The kids would be at home, would still be remote, and that's all staff would be remote with the exception of a very few, but would still be remote learning.
Mr. Edwards?
so does that require, that would be an action item though?
That is
based
correct.
upon
We
what-
could make
what-
a
what-
modification though to this, I believe.
But I mean, are we gonna be voting on what, Ms. Sanchez said, or are we gonna be voting on?
same.
That's up for the board to, I brought the 2 weeks, the 1 and
Okay.
1. If the board wants to modify that, they can modify that tonight.
Okay,
So I have just a couple quick questions I want to clarify. If some of our teachers need access to anything in the school for a short period of time, a resource, a tool, can they go in and get something that they may need?
Absolutely, and that's for all working staff.
And I think it's not going to affect most of our kiddos. If they're staff students, they'll be at home with the parents. But for our special ed kiddos, do we foresee any challenges for those parents or?
It will be a challenge, particularly for our kiddos who are special needs, who have a lot of issues that we have to deal with. It is a concern. We will have to provide some compensatory services in the summertime to make up for anything that we lost. But we've already started, for example, one of the issues where I closed the department down today, one of the schools, we already got the paper ready, we already got the Zooms going, they've all been contacted, and to be quite honest, the parents were quite happy that we did that. So that the kids, because a lot of these kids cannot handle the COVID virus with their illnesses that they may have.
Right. And so as part of the communication that we're sending to the parents, no matter what it is, can we include information on who to call if they need daycare services or who to reach out to? Because they may need to know some of that.
Well, and we don't really have that because that's within the community itself. I can give them a few places.
Or website for,
I can give them, for example, child care and referral.
yes,
I can give them those, but you always deal with that issue. And the problem is with special ed students, at the ones that we're seeing right now, they need specialized care and individualized care. That is not something you're going to find out ready in the service area.
how does that affect the, I know that that it was mentioned earlier about, finals. How's that gonna affect us when it comes to doing finals?
Well, the way it stands now, the way the proposal is, Mr. Edwards, is we would still have 7 days before the end of the school year after Thanksgiving. Of course, after Christmas, after the holiday break, the new year starts, so we start brand new again. So it's all remote. Any way you look at it, it's all remote, either way.
So education wouldn't stop? It
No.
would just be the process of how teachers are going to deliver?
The issue is getting people out of the buildings, staying home, and not just teachers who are, most of them, they share that time between school and home, but I'm talking about the majority of our staff.
Well, that would even help our cleaning staff. That would mitigate a lot of the personal contact within the building.
Within the buildings, it would hopefully settle down what we're going through right now. It has been very difficult. What's hard for most people to understand is we do our own contact tracing. And oh my gosh, That is a tremendous amount of work.
All the way to the 8th.
Well, maintenance and custodian, they still will work, but it's gonna be a limited
3
amount of
days.
time. Yeah. In
cafeteria.
cafeteria, it may be different. On Thanksgiving, what we may end up doing, and it's allowed, is that we would send home 6 grab-and-go meals on November 24th. So they would have all the meals ready to go. My concern is, and I've already talked to Kim about this, Ms. Meeks, is I want that well publicized and well out there so our families know, be it on the newspaper, be it on the webpage, be it on Facebook, be it on the radio. We need to get that out there that for those 6 days, they can pick up those meals. That is critical for me, is that we provide those meals for those families. So she's willing to work with us because it's much more difficult with our cafeteria program.
So, Mr. Gottlieb, the 24th is a Monday, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that food would have to be prepared on the 22nd or earlier,
Well, there's some of it they can provide earlier. Let me make sure my.
because if it's on Monday.
Tuesday the 23rd.
Okay. My concern is the shelf life of the food. If it's having to be prepped 2 or 3 days earlier, then we send it home for 6 days. That's 9 days old on a prepared product.
I understand that, but I will tell you, bringing in the cafeteria program, and I don't have Kim online, so I can't have her address that. I can have you send some stuff to the board. I'll have it sent to me and I'll send it to you on what they're doing for that. But we have done 5 days already. We've already had to do that, where we have given out meals for 5 days.
5 days?
Mhm. And that's allowable under the federal law and the state law.
Okay.
Good question, though, Mr. Dolan. Thank you.
So, the food distribution, I've got a question about that, Mr. Gottlieb. So how are we screening those that pick them up to make sure they are ISD?
No.
There's nothing we can do to
No.
help accommodate?
No.
Okay. Then my second question would be, so, the week we're talking about after, well, this would be the whole time, if we choose to make that decision, the remote learning, it would be all staff, correct? Administrators, central office, all staff.
We would have to have some leeway board members, for example, payroll, that have to come and go. I've been trying to get the staff across the district everywhere
Okay.
to be able to learn to work from remote. Correct, Julie? Correct, Royce? I have brought this up several times. I said, there's got to be a way that if we are sent home, there are some services you cannot stop. You can't stop paying your bills. You can't stop serving food. You cannot stop some of your cleaning and maintenance. You cannot stop payroll. And guess what happens right after January 1st? W-2s.
Yep.
And we have a deadline by the end of January to get those out. So there's all these things that start adding up that no matter what happens, we have to have the ability, one way or another, to get those jobs done.
There's board meeting.
And board meetings. So what I gave to the board is one option. You could see how Thanksgiving goes, and if you don't like it, you can come back in December and look at the December one. Or you may already have some decisions you want to make ahead of time.
So,
I'm just trying to give the board some options to help keep us all safe.
so, our question came up about, you're working, or Royce is working with Mr. Cole on making sure that internet, that all of our families have viable internet.
We're working on that, yes, ma'am.
And teachers, staff also, correct?
This is not a teacher thing, this is student
Just
thing.
students only?
Just students
Okay.
only.
So what about staff? Because if this is a choice we're looking at, we're making sure all staff is.
I think you'll have the anti-donation problem there. I don't want to even touch that one, Ms. Kirk, at this point in time. The students, I know we can help because the governor's helping us directly. I know that. We can provide that because she's helping us directly. She's helping us out through her GEAR money, which is / CARES Act money. So I know that for sure.
But sir, I understand her question around implementation. If a teacher doesn't have internet at home,
Reliable.
what do they do for virtual learning?
See, here's the problem. If you allow some people to come in, you end up with the same problem we have now. Now, can they come in and go and get stuff?
Yes.
The only thing is when we have our custodians and maintenance there, they're gonna have to, all the high-touch areas, we have to
Yeah,
clean.
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
So what if we can we work with like Sparklight and Plateau maybe to look at doing the same service for offering the $20 a month?
I will, at this point in time, I'm gonna say no, Ms. Kirk. I will tell you, I will ask
Do
some
it for one, you have
pointed
to do it for
questions,
everybody.
but I think you're gonna have some issues with that,
So would the option be they create student packets for that time if they don't?
if they need to ahead.
If they need
See, if
to
they
ahead
know
of time.
ahead of time, they know what we're doing.
Right.
That's why I brought
Okay,
this so
okay.
early.
So I also have been in touch with some local entities too, and they said that they have some funding available that they would be willing to work with us. So that might be a resource if we have teachers. that
I just want to warn the board. You have anti-donation, and then all of a sudden you have,
Right.
which staff are you going to pick and choose? All of a
Choose,
sudden,
yeah.
Mr. Dolan says I need it, Ms. Morales says I need it,
First come, first served.
James needs it. I mean, you start getting into some very significant issues, and it's
People will
just,
be unhappy.
and somebody's gonna say that's against the anti-donation clause, it's against your union issues. I just wanna be very, very careful, because we have been very fortunate to work with the union as close. They've been so helpful. They have worked with us, they've helped us on COVID, they've helped us on a lot of issues. I just don't wanna throw anything that could cause problems.
Yeah. Well, they could do packets, so that's an option.
That is an option.
Okay.
So I'd like to start with what was originally recommended. Do I have a motion to approve the original recommendation of 1 week virtual learning after each holiday?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
We
think I'm
have a
gonna go with
motion by Mr. Dolan and a second by Ms. Kirk. May I get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales,
No.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Milburn Dolan.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the motion that passed to give 1 week after each holiday for remote learning only.
Yes.
Okay?
So then, on our next board meeting, then we can come back in December and look at the alternative. If our governor, depending on what our governor does, that may be a moot point. So that might be an option to look at.
Can we just put it back on the agenda for December?
we can
This
put it-
way it's back open for discussion
Okay.
as an action item.
It was approved as recommended.
But actually, you said remote learning, you didn't say anything about the staff.
It was approved as recommended by Mr.
As recommended by
Dolan.
Mr. Gottlieb.
Okay, okay. Because when you
And-
repeated it, it was remote
sorry.
learning.
And then we will make sure that this item is back on December agenda so that we can discuss it again. Okay,
And we can give you numbers.
perfect. Okay, so the ayes have it and the motion carried. And now we're moving on to reports. Mr. Gottlieb?
I don't have any more reports. I'm sorry. I'm
No.
kind of like the teachers. I've had enough for the day.
You don't want to play anymore?
No, I don't want to play anymore. Sandbox is too dirty. Mr. Call, anything on finance?
Yeah.
Mr.
You
Cole,
felt the same way you did.
That's okay.
You don't want to play anymore?
I have him tested.
Do we have any questions on finance?
No.
I know we have a deal, I have a
Okay,
meeting.
can you hear me now?
Oh, there he is. Mr. Edwards has a question.
Oh, we have a meeting, I believe. We're still on for that meeting tomorrow, correct?
At 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That is,
Yes, 11 o'clock, and you guys.
It wasn't a finance committee meeting, was it?
it's an audit committee.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the closing report.
Right.
And that's a good thing to bring up, Mr. Edwards.
Huh?
That's a good thing to bring up.
All right. Okay, moving on to board communication. I'm gonna open it up for the board to share any informational items or acknowledgements.
I have a question. So for the students receiving speech, do we have modified masks for the teacher and students?
You would bring that up. Our masks have been held in quarantine for how long now? 6 weeks, 7 weeks?
It's been longer than
In
that.
Los Angeles.
Why?
I don't know. I'm sorry, it's a mask, it's like these, but it has a clear window right here.
Oh.
For our speech?
For speech and anybody else who wants to use it. I bought 500 of them. So,
So you have to go to
well,
California
because
to
you
get
have to
them?
replace them and those things, they get dirty, they wear out, those things. So we do have them. I keep calling the company and they don't know why they're being held in quarantine in Los Angeles.
So are those students being provided the face shields?
Face shields. Well, we have face shields for all the teachers. Every staff has a face shield. However, the statute, the requirement is that you have to wear a face shield and a mask. So we do have the face shields, but you gotta wear both on that issue.
So is there a secondary source that we might be able to get them quick without a 6-8 week?
No.
Okay.
It's kind of like finding.
That's all I wanted to know, Mr. Gottlieb.
Kind of
Thank
finding
you.
like these.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gottlieb.
You're welcome.
I'll let you go. That's it.
Okay. So this is the end of our.
Wait, I
wait.
have something I want to share.
Can I say something also?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I say, I just want to thank Mrs. Anchondo's fourth grade class over at Washington Avenue for allowing me to sit in and join them in a Zoom classroom one day. I was just very impressed with the transition that between the activities and the momentum that they kept, and the students' engagement was very impressive. And she was also able to connect individually with through messaging, and also speaking to the parents that they were there. The parents were really happy the way that things were going, and I'm happy the parents, thank you to the parents for actually making sure their kids were on the Zoom and on the right link and the whole works. I was really impressed. I don't know how they do it.
It is amazing. It is amazing.
It's tough. But anyway, thank you to the fourth grade class of Mrs. Anchondo's at Washington Avenue.
Okay, so I want to thank all of our veterans out there. Tomorrow's Veterans
Oh,
Day.
yeah.
We're in observance. So I want to thank all of our
Yes, Mr. James.
veterans and all of those out there viewing. Thank you so much for your service. My father was a vet. He was a Navy. He's a Navy veteran, so I want to thank him, and my son is following in his footsteps. Not Navy, but he's looking at becoming a member of the
Thank you.
National Guard. I think that's his
That's what I
choice,
figured.
but he will be going to NIMI too, so
Good
I
condition.
will have a son that's going to be a veteran too. So thank you all so much for your service. We appreciate you immensely. We wouldn't be here today doing what we're doing if it had not been for our veterans. So thank you. Enjoy your day tomorrow, and thanks again for all you've done.
Thank you.
Mr. Edwards?
I hope this is okay. All right,
He's going to say.
Yes, Tony, it was prefaced with.
all right. Tomorrow, over at Valley View Elementary School, November 11th, which is Veterans Day, from between 10 to 12, Valley View will be having a drive-through recognition for veterans. All veterans are encouraged to show up. Miss Tanya Walker is coordinating that, and the staff will greet the veterans at their cars and hand them a goodie bag and some cookies. And you know, when the lady contacted me, I said I would help, I would assist with that, and so I've been spreading the word out. And I'd also like to, at this time, thank Pilar Carrasco, because on Saturday, you know, the American Legions had their Veterans Day deal down here on the courthouse lawn, and Pilar and myself, we showed up over at the Wool Bowl, and we gave out goodie bags to all of the veterans that did show up. And it's a collaboration, it's a collaborative effort between ENMUR and Roswell Independent School District. There was also a video that we've put together and currently being worked on. But I just want to thank everybody from RISD for participating and helping us with this endeavor. You know, normally we do Veterans Day live in the schools, but we've had to change pace, just like the schools have. We've had to change what we do and do it a different way. And we came up with a good idea. And I just want to say thank you to RISD, and I also want to thank Miss Walker over at Valley View Elementary. And I want to thank all the staff. You know, this is our last meeting before we go to Thanksgiving. And I hope everybody has a healthy and a safe Thanksgiving. And that's coming from me and the board, I hope.
Yes.
So just be safe and, you know, put everything in God's hands. That's all we can do right now. So I might get, you know, slapped in the face for saying that, but hey, oh well. But be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
And you know what, I want to piggyback off that. In the years past, we've always done veteran assemblies in both of our high schools and several of our elementaries. And I know my schools have always participated, so it rocks my soul knowing that we can't honor our veterans. It hurts like crazy. So thank you, Mr. Edwards, for mentioning that about Mr. Crosco and y'all having your celebration. Also, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Godler and board members, I was just going to say that a lot of our classroom teachers are doing a Zoom class, and they're inviting a lot of the veterans to join them.
So
For tomorrow.
I sent you that in email from Abby over at COC. There's lots of stuff going on. Like Mr. Edwards said, we had to change something different, and Ms. Morales, I tell you this, but the teachers stepped up on their own, and they did it.
That's very true.
And it's just the nature of being a teacher.
Yep.
And we can't thank them enough for all that work.
Thank you. Anything else, board members? Okay, this is the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second?
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second by Ms. Sanchez. May I get a roll call, please?
Hope Morales?
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez?
Yes.
Mona Kirk?
Yes.
James Edwards?
Yes.
Milburn Dolan?
Yes.
And the time of adjournment is 8:13.